It is the Martha Zoller Show, and it's my pleasure to welcome Oshrit Sabag. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you
Yes,
are.
very good. And we welcome you to the program. She lives in Israel and is here for a kind of tour of the United States and areas to talk about what October 7th was like as we're coming up unbelievably on an anniversary of that day. And, you know, it's so great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Tell us a little bit about you first.
Well, I live in Israel. I live in a kibbutz, which is a small agricultural community located very close to the Gaza Strip, about half a mile. And I work as an educator. I was a teacher, and I work with children and teenagers.
And how long did you do that? How long were you an educator?
About 35 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Your whole career, right?
Yeah.
So what do you have family-wise? Are you married, children?
I am married, and I have two lovely children, 11 and 13, and they are waiting for me to come back home.
I bet they are. I bet they are. So in the clip we played at the top, you were sharing some text messages you got from a student, I believe it was. So just kind of walk us through a little bit about what the morning of October 7th was like for you.
Well, 6:30 in the morning, we started hearing alarms and explosions. And we thought that it was, like every day when something like this happens, that it will be for 10 minutes or so. We will go to the safe room, and after like 10 minutes, come back out. And it just didn't stop. Okay, it was ongoing. We had rocket attacks and many sirens that went off. The house behind mine was hit. The first rocket fell on that house, so we had a very, nice waking up. And my children were already in the safe room because children in Nahal Oz usually sleep in the safe room. We have every house in Nahal Oz has one of the rooms is a bomb shelter, at least one. Okay, so you have iron shutters and everything. It is very protected. Mostly the children live there, sleep there. So we ran to their room, my husband and I, and the dogs, and we were waiting for it to be over. And I think around 7, teenagers started texting me because I'm in charge of education at my kibbutz. So there were some parents that couldn't function in the situation. When we realized that there was a penetration to the kibbutz, there were some neighborhoods that it happened before others. So we had some parents that really saw everything from their window, saw the terrorists coming into the kibbutz. Some of them really couldn't function. And I started getting messages from teenagers asking me what they should do.
So was your kibbutz breached?
My kibbutz?
Yes.
Yes. Terrorists came to my kibbutz from the front gate and the back gate together at 6:30 a.m. Probably after they took down there's an army base right next to us, and that was supposed to aid us in that.
Yeah, so as I understood, and I've read a lot of accounts of this, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched all the video. I've been invited to watch a lot of the video, but I believe what happened, and I don't want to watch everything just because I believe it, and I think it will hurt me more to see it. And I know that may sound weak to you, but I just don't think I can watch all of it. But what it seems to me, what I've heard from several accounts, is that there were police stations and there were army bases that were kind of out beyond, and those were hit first from a communication standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Firstly, don't watch it.
Yes.
You don't need to see that. It was really beyond, I cannot describe what happened that day. I can tell you that I was locked in my safe room and I didn't know what was going on outside of it until the day was over. But I agree with you. I wouldn't watch the videos. I know how we found our friends and neighbors. What you said about going first to police stations and army bases, this is exactly what happened. There were serious battles that took place in the police station of Sderot and in the army bases all around. You can see it here, in the United States, when people today say globalize intifada, and you see the police car, there's always a picture of a police car going up in flames. This is exactly the aim, to make you weaker and to be able to, hurt you easily, more easily, without people being able to come and protect you. And that's what happened.
Sheryl Sandberg, who was the CEO of Facebook for a period of time, she's, a very wealthy woman, and she did a documentary called Screams Before Silence that was about what happened to the women. And she tells a lot of very poignant stories, but two that have really stuck with me is one that, Hamas used sexual assault and the kinds of things they did because, one, they could, and two, it hurts you beyond everything. And there were many men that heard what was going on but couldn't do anything about it because they would die too if they went out, and it made them feel very guilty. And there have been a lot of suicides as a result of that I've read about. And then the second thing was, she told this story about, and she lives in a fancy neighborhood in Palo Alto, California. I mean, like the richest place you could live probably in the world. Okay, one of the richest in the world. And she's walking with her friend, and she says to her friend, "If it comes to it, would you hide me?" And that, I get emotional thinking about it now. I don't even know her, but I'm thinking, in the United States of America, now you know what you went through in Israel, but I was oblivious to the level of anti-Semitism that there is in my own country. And to think that a woman would say to another woman, "Would you hide me if it comes to it?" And we cannot be here. I know we are here. I'm not denying that we are here. But I am not going to allow my country, my world, whatever. I can't do much. I'm a 65-year-old woman, but I'm going to do what I can to make sure that this does not continue.
This is really amazing to hear. I will tell you this. When I went through October 7th, it was after years of going through security attacks in Nahal Oz. And I've always remembered the stories of my mother, okay? I am a Middle Eastern North African Jew, okay? I'm from the region. And my mom was terrorized out of Libya, okay? I'm second generation to refugees myself. She was terrorized out of Libya. And the elderly of my family used to tell us, well, as children, stories about the atrocities that they went through in Libya when they had people coming in and, trying to rape, mutilate, do all the things that happened on October 7th. I think it took me a week or so after October 7th, after gathering all the stories that happened to my people. I was a teacher in the local high school. I have students that were burnt alive. This is a pain that I cannot even describe, okay? So when I had all the stories and when I heard about all the rapes and we heard all those stories, pregnant women with bellies cut open and all these atrocities. I can't even repeat it. It's very difficult for me to repeat it. But we're talking about extreme atrocities. And I think it was a week or so after that I held my head and I said, "Oh my God, just like my mother, I'm a survivor of a massacre in Libya, like she went through. And you're talking about that woman now in the United States. I'm telling you, this thing is obviously progressing, okay, going beyond borders of the Middle East. And for me in Israel, which is, Western civilization, we have a strong army, we have everything, and it happened there. And it is frightening. It is frightening.
You know, it's funny because there's this show on Netflix called Jewish Matchmaker. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was filmed in 2022. Okay, so like before all this happened. And, you know, a lot of it's done in Israel. There's a little bit in the United States, but a lot of it's done in Israel. And you see, you know, how vibrant Tel Aviv is, and you see the people. It's very open and progressive, and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And you think to yourself, you know, this Gaza could have been Tel Aviv. Gaza could have been Singapore. You know, Gaza has had enough money spent on it. And I heard Bill Maher, who's a liberal, say they spent the money down instead of up. They built tunnels and munitions instead of hotels and, you know, great places for people to go on vacation. And it's this, you know, I'm an open person about religion. I believe that religion should be protected, all of that. But there's something about this radical Islamist bent. It's not all Muslims. I saw the Muslim man who was the hostage that was released. You know, it's something about it that is destructive. It wants to get rid of anything that doesn't agree with it. Yeah. And that's the very big difference that you have there.
I have to tell you that, you know, when my mom left Libya, the reason they could, the family survived was because it was a Muslim man that protected them, okay? So my entire existence lies on the fact that there are, you know, good and bad people everywhere. I really have nothing against Muslims, nor Gazans or Palestinians. I have a lot against radical Islam that comes from different places, especially from the Middle East. And I think that this is something that the world needs to understand, that this is not something that is a problem of the Middle East or so, okay? This is something that is going to get out of there.
Well, in a way, they're using our openness and our freedom against us. By the way they're dealing with things even in our own country. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this very moving story. We'll be back. It is the Martha Zoller Show, and we are so happy to have here with us, I want to make sure I say this right, Oshrit Sabag, and she is a survivor of October 7th, and she was a teacher, so she had a lot of friends and students that were impacted, were killed. You know, I don't want to be too nice, but I don't want to too nice words for what it is. But they were killed, and they were scared, and they were attacked. You know, we just had 6 hostages that we found dead, and that they were basically killed because they were going to be rescued. And you know, I'm very concerned that the rest of the hostages are not alive, but you know, I have hope that they will be. Now, you wanted to make a point about just kind of what you saw and what happened. So why don't you finish that point?
About what we spoke to before earlier, I wanted to say that when Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip in 2005, there were greenhouses that were left there that were abundant, you know, with fruit and vegetables and everything you need. And they were smashed down, okay, with clubs. They just went inside and smashed everything down because they didn't want to get anything from Israel, okay? And I remember that when I firstly saw the terror attack tunnels, you know how much it cost to build them. It was billions, all right? And I looked at it and I said to myself, you know, you're a ruler of a population that you claim that is starving. What are you doing? How come you spend billions on things like that, and you don't, you know, build more hanneries and, you know, crop fields and whatever is needed, schools and whatever is needed to progress. So you see that, and it is quite amazing to see. They got really a lot of assistance from around the world, and I would have loved to live peacefully side by side, okay? But if you take all that money and you put it only in, you know, fighting with your neighbors, doing things in the neighboring countries, Israel and Egypt, yeah? So what could you do? How could you live in peace?
Well, and it's
together.
been going on for a long time. 20 years ago, we had a ER doctor that worked 6 months here and 6 months in Israel, and he was in Israel with his daughter planning her wedding, and he and his daughter and others were killed in the coffee shop bombing that happened about, I think it was about 2003 when it happened. But so it happens, and it's been going on for a long time, and I just don't understand it. Although, I know what we got to do. We got to fight terrorism wherever it is, and you can't negotiate with terrorists. And that's why I cringe every time people go ceasefire now, ceasefire now. Israel's agreed to every single ceasefire. Who hasn't agreed is Hamas, and who didn't complete what they agreed on, which were two of the hostages that were killed a couple of weeks ago were supposed to have been released in November. So how can you negotiate with somebody like that?
It is very difficult. This is why I understand that, Israeli governments, it doesn't matter which government it is, are not to blame, because it is very difficult to sit down and negotiate with someone that handles reality like that. And I think that people around the world don't understand, firstly, the proximity that we have to terror. You said we have to stand up against terror very firmly and very fiercely. We need to stand up together against it, because it is something that really puts us as great societies. We have great societies in the United States, in Israel, in every Western society. We came to a point that we can really live freely. We can be liberals. We can do whatever we choose to do. And I think that the forces around the world that are working today are taking us, are trying to make it, to bring us back 1,000 years back to history. Okay.
Now, I know you're traveling around the country. You're going to be speaking about your experiences. You'll be at the Faith and Freedom dinner tonight. We appreciate so much you being here today, because we've got to tell these stories, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
So if people want to know more, is there an organization you would recommend that are helping the families? Would it be the Red Cross or something like that, or do you know?
Well, the Red Cross, when it came to Israel with the hostages, did not really do their jobs. The situation with the hostages was horrible, okay, when they were in the Gaza Strip. And the ones that are still there are in horrible conditions, and they should be brought back home immediately.
And that's what we need to do. We need to bring them home immediately. It's the Martha Zoller Show. We'll be back.